Hello students and welcome back to our Analyzing English video series. In this 17th video, we're going to just be talking and analyzing the value of knowing a second language, whether that's English, like what we teach here at English from A to Z, or any other second language. I've been lucky enough to study a few languages. Spanish is my second language, so I love second languages. If you know a third or fourth or fifth or even more languages than that, if you're multilingual, know that you have a lot of value just knowing a second language. We know it's not easy. I tell students all the time, like it's a real, not a privilege, but it is kind of like something you work hard at. You know, you don't need a second language in your own country usually. Sometimes you do. There are times and instances where you do, but you don't have to. But there's real value in speaking a language not your own. And that deserves all the respect and kindness in the world for knowing a second language. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to use some things I've seen online that I think encourage good behavior and good learning practices. And, this is just a way for me to express why it's important to know a second language like English. It's not necessary. I'll never say you have to, but it does help in a lot of ways. And I speak from experience knowing my own second language and other languages that I've studied. It really makes a difference in one's life, whether professionally, personally, or just in your own education and just being a good person. I think it lends something to that as well. Knowing a second language, kind of stepping into another person's frame of mind or mindset. It's hard to explain, but knowing a second language is like knowing a second person in a way, in my view. So my name is Ben with English from A to Z, and let's dive into this further. So mastering your primary language is key first, and there's been some debate, a little bit of controversy about whether English should be the official language of the United States. I'm not going to weigh into that personally. I have my own viewpoint. I think the main thing that I want everyone to take away is that even if English is someone's first language, some people can't even speak their first language properly. They know it, but they can't teach it or they can't explain it. So some people want English to be the only language, but those people sometimes don't speak that language very well, or maybe they underestimate how hard it is to learn English as a second language. So, some countries have English as an official language, others don't. I think that's a complicated debate. There are pros and cons. This isn't what the video is for, but the video is to say, before you start a second language, I think it's important to get as good at your first language as possible, because you shouldn't judge people for learning a second or third language to begin with. I'll never judge you for ever learning a second or third language that's not your own. That takes real courage. It takes real skills, and it takes a lot of effort, years or decades of effort. The thing that you should keep in mind, to become better at learning languages, you really have to become good at knowing your own language. And to become an English teacher for people learning as a second language or for native speakers or learners, it's one thing to learn your own native language from your parents or grandparents or from friends. It's another thing to actually teach it or explain it. And I like this one, that people cheering that English is now the official language when 54% of y'all or you all can't even distinguish the difference between there, and there is wild. I think it's funny. I mean, it's making a point here, but somebody will say, "Oh, it's so hard. It should be easy to learn English," which is not. But they think it's easy to even teach English as another language, or even teach English in general. But a lot of people, native speakers, don't even know how to explain their language, and that goes for any language. Some people can't explain their own grammar rules or pronunciation or why things are the way they are. That's why you need teachers to help you as students, because there's huge grammatical nuances like there, and there. There's slight differences there. So, it's important that before you judge someone and want, hey, English is the official language, don't do that to begin with, but have patience with people, because some people who speak it as a native or the primary language don't even know how to master their own native tongue, or they don't know how to explain it, or they make mistakes. Even if it's someone's native language, some of them make mistakes, or they don't understand how to teach it, or they don't understand the struggle that someone learning the second language even goes through. So some people need to remember that, English as an official language of a country, whether or not you agree with it, that's one thing, but you should be very understanding that some people don't even know how to write or read or speak their own native language. And I'm not saying that's acceptable either, but before you judge someone for learning English as a second language, you should think about yourself, how hard it is to master your own native language, whether that's English or another language, because there's a lot of grammar, nuances. Reading is not easy. Speaking at an advanced level, even for native speakers, is not easy. And writing in English is one thing. Writing well is another thing, like in any language. So I just want to make that point because that's been in, the news lately, at least here in the United States. I think the main thing is mastering your primary language is key first before judging someone who's learning your language as a second language or a third language. That's even harder. Which leads me to my next point, which is why knowing a second language is invaluable. It's one of the most valuable things, I think. I'm biased as a teacher and as the founder of English from A to Z, but it's invaluable. There's few things I value more than this. And I like this really a lot. It's kind of like an answer to the previous statement. You speak English because it's the only language you know. I speak English because it's the only language you know. We are not the same. And it makes a point, not trying to get political again, but, when somebody is learning English as their non-native language to communicate with you, and you only know English, you should not be judging them because you only speak English while English is their second, third, or fourth language. Maybe they're fluent in two languages and English is their third. So we're not the same. It's true. There's real value in knowing English or any other language as a second language, and I speak from experience on both sides. And if you're only speaking your native language like English, it's the only one you know, great, no problem. But before you judge someone for making errors, maybe they don't know the differences between there, and there, that kind of thing, you shouldn't be judging them. You shouldn't be chastising them. That's unacceptable, point blank. And also, they're going out of their way to learn your language to communicate with you. So they have two languages, three languages, that means a lot. So that you should be respecting them for speaking English because it's the only language that you may know if English is your only language. Whereas if English is their second language and they already know language fluently or natively, that's amazing. So there's a difference there. You shouldn't judge people for learning other languages in general, I think. And it takes real effort, real courage to do that. And I hope we never forget that. But I think it's good to analyze why English is, it's a global language, but you shouldn't take it for granted somebody learning English as a second language. It takes real courage, real guts. And, if you only know one language and you see someone speaking English and it's getting there, but it's not quite there, have patience, have respect for them because they already know their own native language and they're learning English to communicate with you, whereas you may only know English and you don't know their language. So it's not exactly the same. So anyway, my point is learning any language, English as a second language, any other language like Spanish as a second language, that's totally invaluable. That's 100% the best in my view, and that's why I got into this kind of field because learning English or another language, second, third, fourth, fifth language, what have you, is an amazing personal achievement, and I'll always stand by you. Wherever you are in the process from beginner to intermediate advanced, that's a beautiful thing, and I appreciate y'all for doing that. So thank you so much for watching. This was a different video, but I like to do these Analyzing English videos to dive in deeper, the proficiency of English around the world, why people learn English as a second language, English as a national language, why it's important to not judge people for learning another language if it's not their primary language, hugely important. If you enjoyed this video, please like or subscribe to our YouTube channel at English from A to Z. Check out our other great YouTube videos on our channel, from learning the entire English alphabet from A to Z to fixing your English grammatical, punctuation, or other errors to improve your English language skills. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, please. Follow us here on YouTube. And if you have any questions about this video or would like to subscribe to our official newsletter, please go to our website, www.englishfromatozcom.com/newsletter. Thanks so much, guys, for watching at home, and I'll see you soon for another Analyzing English video. Take care now. Bye bye.